Hi guys, welcome to the Tales from the Motherland. It's me right here, and today I just want to give you some fun and amusement from this woman, Arikana Chihombori. Man, this woman is deadly and I don't know what to make of her, but she looks like she is quite emotional about the African problem. Maybe perhaps she should get a leading role when we finally get the United States of Africa, hopefully. But then now let's watch and enjoy.
Many of the Africans I speak to, it's not that they do not recognize that there is corruption in other parts of the world, but they do say in most cases nobody is ever held accountable. People have come from countries where they've seen the plunder of state wealth. They've seen people blatantly stealing, but there's no day they get arrested. There's no day they get sued and made to pay, either by going to prison and their wealth taken away. Yet in a place like the United States, we've seen people go to prison for even just attempting to solicit for a bribe.
A few minutes later.
But let me take you back a little bit. While we are busy talking about this corruption in terms of what the actual leaders are doing at different levels, let's also look at the environment in which they are operating from. Let's take, for example, the Francophone countries. When you look at the limitations which were set up by them signing the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization back in 1958, when you look at the fact that none of these countries print their own money, and they're not allowed to, none of these countries, over 40%, almost 50% of their food is coming from outside. The countries, the contracts, private and public, in those countries, the French companies have first right of refusal. When you look at the fact that their own mineral assets, the oil discovered yet to be discovered, the minerals discovered and yet to be discovered, France has the first right of refusal in order to sell those resources. When you look at all that, their own military is trained by France. France has a presence in those countries. They're completely controlled by France.
But
what I'm saying is, IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who is going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African Diaspora Center of Excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it...
Another one.
What was very disturbing was the disrespect that was so blatant. I would be sitting in meetings initially because, you know, as a doctor, you're always a doctor no matter where you are. And I thought it was really quite humorous sitting with all these big diplomats, and here I am, a medical doctor, and I'm supposed to be useful. I'm busy diagnosing them, you know, you got a thyroid condition, you are bipolar, and I got a pill for you. I'm not really paying attention to the deliberations because I don't think politicians accomplish much. Trading partner. So this is a very important meeting that I hope that if the United States, like I used to tell my colleagues, I felt that the United States, if this was a basketball game, the United States needed to call for timeout. For US needed to realize that this is a new game and it required new rules of engagement. Therefore, a need for the United States to re-strategize. I think for the United States, and I'll repeat it, and I used to repeat it all the time during my tenure, what really is behind the failure of effective engagement with Africa is the disrespect of the Africans.
Nice.
That's where the problem begins. If we cannot accept, if the United States cannot accept Africans as equal partners, if the United States, for example, let's look at this particular meeting, this particular summit. There was no defined agenda. There has never been defined agendas whenever they meet with African countries as individual countries. It's always the United States setting the agenda, the United States setting the policies, and the United States telling the Africans about the policies. That is no way to have any meaningful engagement.
Another one.
The disrespect is not just for the Africans on the continent. The disrespect is for black people around the world. The abuse is not just for Africans on the continent. The abuse is for black people wherever you find us. I'm going to share with you some basic facts. You see, our story is a simple one. Our story is of truth and facts, which are two constants that do not change. And all we need to do is give the world an overdose of our truth and insist on it. As we speak today, I'm going to take you back centuries, long before the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves. There was some serious resistance when the occupiers from the West came to Africa, contrary to what some might think. They didn't just give up their children, but the fighting began long before slavery. And the resistance was those who led them, the majority of them, their heads, as we speak today, are sitting in jars in Europe. Are you aware of that? Our leaders, our ancestors who fought the wars of resistance, their heads, their remains are sitting in jars throughout Europe. And the same people have the audacity to come to Africa and talk to us about human rights. But what's even more disturbing is that we entertain them and we don't remind them of these skeletons in their closet. As we speak today, the priceless artifacts that they stole from all over Africa are sitting in their museums throughout Europe. And when you and I, when we visit Europe, we pay to see what belongs to us. Evidence of theft, evidence of murder in display, on display.